Joining the podcast is Tim Simon, who is the best high school football player I've ever seen. He played at Cordova High School, then he went on to play running back for the Ole Miss Rebels, and he's now back coaching at Cordova. Tim, thank you for joining the podcast. How you doing, man?
No problem, man. Thank you for having me.
So I remember when I was about 7 years old, man, Wednesdays would be my favorite day of the week because that meant that you were going to stop by the house and come and throw the football with me after practice. You remember that?
Oh man, yes, I remember like it was yesterday. You didn't live but up the street from me, and I knew you'd be out there with the football. And it was a couple more kids that would wait on me and Ryan to come around. It was just a fun time, just to get the experience to the youth to show them that we can always come out and help be a part of our community as far as being able to play with kids and stuff like that.
Man, so how'd you get into coaching? I hear that you're back at Cordova coaching. Tell me about that.
After the injury in college, it was such a devastating time for me that I think at the point the only thing that really made me happy was being around football. And I always kind of knew if I didn't make it in football, I would want to coach. So they kind of just drove me into coaching even more.
So coaching has always been kind of in the back of your mind.
Yes, just to be in order to stay around the game.
What's it like to be at your alma mater and be on the other side from you've played there, now you're coaching there?
Oh man, it's a blessing. I can't lie to you. The kids are great, the parents are great. I guess just being able to be from there and everybody have the utmost respect for you. That I can kind of go about. They know I can go about it the way I want to. As far as being around the kids, they know that I'm here to help take care of their kids, and I kind of know where to take the win. So therefore, they kind of let me do what I want to as far as being able to handle their kids because I mean, as every coach say, I treat them like they're mine, but it's different.
Well, what are your expectations for you guys this year? How have y'all looked this summer with OTAs and everything?
We're an older group this year. Last year we only had a couple of seniors, which I wish we could have those two back that we lost, the big two anyway. But I think we're gonna be pretty good. I mean, we got a fighting group. We got some leaders that have stepped up. Everything has went smooth. Kids have gotten a lot stronger, a lot faster, a lot more knowledge of the game, a lot more confidence. You know, all the things that you want in a team is starting to fall in play for us.
Who's in y'all's region?
We got Dora, Corner, Haleville, Hamilton, and I think I'm missing one more. Northside.
Okay. Okay. Is that 4A or 5A?
Yeah, we in 4A.
So Tim, let's go back, man. Tell me about when your love of football first started. When was that?
Oh man, I always had a love for football. Just coming from, being in Alabama, the biggest thing between Auburn and Alabama football, college football. So as a young kid, I was always a football fan, and Rudy Johnson was my favorite player coming up at the time. So therefore, playing running back has always been a thing for me after watching Rudy Johnson run the ball at Auburn.
Well, that was going to lead me into my next question. I was going to ask you who are some guys that you tried to idolize growing up?
Yeah, I love Rudy Johnson, but the reason why I wore number 23, and it's a funny story because almost every year I've never got to choose my number, right? So this is the kind of the year, my ninth grade year, I'm coming in, and I wanted number 9, and I couldn't get it because an older guy wanted it. And so Coach Bazin at the time, he was like, "Man, who is your favorite running back?" And at the time, I was like, "Coach, it's Ronnie Brown, prime example of a great Auburn running back. You got size, speed, all that you want in a running back." And then he was like, "Okay," that's all he said. And about a week later, he come back and he threw me number 23. He said, "I want you to be like him when you get older." And I kind of embraced that role and trying to do my best and take that number where it's supposed to win.
That's awesome, man. I've always wondered where 23 came from. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't get to choose it. Well, my coach chose it for me, but it ain't the number; it's who in the number.
Absolutely. Well, Man, back when you were at Cordova, we all know there was, just stacked teams and state championships and, every game was packed out. What do you remember about that experience?
Oh man, listen, it's the coming out of the tunnel. I get chill bumps thinking about it. And I wouldn't even say a tunnel, but the little field house we had right there in the front. And you got all those older guys and kids that just stand there and wait on you to come out of the tunnel. You know, it's the chest bumps, the head slaps, the high fives. The excitement on the kids' faces. You know, Sometimes it's just the highlight of some people's life. And that I think that amped me up more than anything.
Well, how do you think your game would have translated to today if you were playing in high school right now?
Um, with that being said, I think it'd be the same. To be honest with you, I really think it'd be the same because the kids we got now, and then being able to play behind those kids, how gritty they are, I think it'd be the same as far as the speed, the caliber of the kids, the strength, all that stuff. I think it'd be the same if you ask me. If we had the same guys and all that, too much hasn't changed. But I don't know. It's that one's kind of hard to answer, but I think it'd be the same.
Well, I interviewed your cousin Ryan Smith, who was also a outstanding Cordova player, who also agreed with me that uh, you're the best high school football player we had ever seen, and he said that he credits a lot of Cordova's success back then to just the overall chemistry that everyone had with each other from growing up playing with each other. Do you think you'd agree with that statement?
Oh man, I 100% agree with that. It's just it fell into our hands. Things happen out there on that field, and people will wonder how that's happening. This just comes from us playing together as young kids. That's the same guys I played with in Toy Bowl that we came up with. I mean, we all trusted each other. And as far as, the backfield tandem goes with me and Ryan and Daniel and all this, like I said, we've been playing together since we were younger. It's just something about that was unmatched with everybody else. And it's really easy when you're getting 10 to 15 yards without being touched because your offensive linemen are busting their butt for you. So, you know, that makes it easy too.
What game sticks out to you the most from your playing days?
Um, you know, just listening to people talk, and I try not to get into that talk a lot, but you would think it would be that 4th and 1 at Clay County when we had to convert it to end up winning the game. But a lot. I think that's my biggest moment, and knocking those 2 passes down at the end of the game in Clay County. But a lot of the times, the strip comes up from Trinity game my senior year.
Well, I was definitely going to ask you about that Clay County play. As you mentioned, there's a lot of pressure riding on that one play, and coach kind of put it in your hands, kind of put, the state title and in your hands, and you got your whole hometown on your back, man. What was going through your mind during that play as you were
Uh,
walking out on the field?
I mean, it was kind of, as far as when he called the play, everybody in the huddle expected me to get the ball anyway. But it's the team behind you that makes you like, okay, I got the confidence to do this anyway because the first thing they holler, we got you. All you gotta do is do what you do, and we got you. Nobody will touch you in the backfield. So I mean, that confidence from the offensive linemen and the receivers and everybody that took pride in blocking for me. Even Ryan playing quarterback will sometimes get out the backfield and go block for me. That just sets a different mode and understanding of a team. So it makes it kind of easy to get the ball, no matter if you get it or if you fail. They're behind you. So the pressure wasn't always that much. You know what I mean? Just go out there and play.
Right, man. So you were pretty highly recruited coming out of high school. What do you remember about your recruiting process? Because you signed with Ole Miss, but were there any other schools that had your interest?
Oh man, listen, we went back and forth. I think Clemson and Ole Miss where it came down to, and Clemson came down every 2 weeks. I felt like, and Ole Miss was every 3 or 4 days. It was a fun thing. I was glad when it was over because it was getting so nerve wracking, but at the same time, it was fun. That was a good experience to have. Um, Kentucky wanted me. I know, and I kind of turned down a trip up there because I already had my mind set on either going to Ole Miss or to Clemson. Obviously, I could have went to Alabama, but I didn't really want to play defense at the time. Auburn had took their scholarship because they was going through that coaching change, so therefore I think I got erased out of the system. But as far as that, it was a great experience to have to go through that. Just to have that type of attention was great.
What ultimately made you decide to sign with Ole Miss over Clemson?
Um, it was when I went on my trips there. That's what it was. I got to know the guys pretty fast. And the crazy thing is, everybody that went on that recruiting trip with us ended up signing with Ole Miss. We signed 32 that year, so we oversigned. But everybody that went on our recruiting trip signed with Ole Miss. So I mean, we became a tight group too, and we all stayed together until about sophomore year. But I think that's had been the determining factor. And on top of that, when they were coming to visit, they was coming to visit my grandmother. And if everybody knows, I was really close to my grandmother coming up, and I still am to this day. And I think they kind of figured that out, so they would go down there and see her instead of coming to see me, and then make me come down there. And she was like, "Hey, I trust these guys." She said, "If it was up to me, I think you should go here." And that kind of was a no-brainer right there. That too many coaches wasn't doing that. They would go see my mom, but they wasn't seeing my grandparents like that.
Well, you were a pretty solid safety. And you mentioned Alabama. Did you have any interest from colleges as a DB?
Oh yeah, think I had more DB and linebackers than I did at running back. Coming out of high school, I was ranked higher at linebacker than I was at running back, and I think I played linebacker 3 games, which is fine. But at that time, I just knew I wanted to play offense. If I know what I know now, then I would play, whatever they wanted me to play. But yeah,
Did Alabama offer you a scholarship as a DB?
it was more of an outside linebacker type. I mean, they had and it kind of, it's funny because it kind of made me mad because when I asked them about running back, they was like, "Well, we kind of got to stay forward." It kind of, kind of made it like a slap in the face. And this was my junior year, after my junior year. But I can understand they had Eddie Lacy, Trent Richardson, Mark Ingram, and then they had Henry coming in after that. They had a stable full, but it kind of made me feel like they were saying I couldn't compete with those guys. So I think that's what gave me a full head of steam my senior year to go try to break all those records.
Wait, so you said that you were higher rated as a linebacker than a running back coming out of high school?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I was rated like number 32 in the nation at linebacker. And at
And you only
running back, I think I was 40 something.
and you only played 3 games at linebacker?
Yeah, I only played 3 games at linebacker. But I mean, that strong safety is more like a linebacker in that type of defense we ran anyway.
Jeez, man, what were your stats in that 3 game span? Holy crap.
Um, Even at safety, I think I averaged 9 or 10 tackles a game.
Man, that's insane. Because I always
And
remember
I
you as
know
a stud running back, man. I didn't even remember you played defense that much.
see, that's the thing. Sophomore and junior year, I really didn't have to because our defense was so freaking good that then I never really had to tackle anybody. Like playing safety, coming up, the tackle was already made. When you got Dave McAfee, you got Jace Cordell and all them making tackles before you can get up there. So
I read one somewhere that you had asthma back in high school pretty bad. Is that true? I can't imagine playing both sides of the ball with asthma.
yes, I did. I had it bad, and we didn't know it until about my sophomore year. I didn't carry the ball as much my freshman year because I had, Drew Short. He was well, we played side by side. I'm not gonna say one of us was first and one of us was second, but so I didn't carry the ball no more than 6, 7 times a game. So I didn't have to, I wasn't never that tired. But sophomore year rolls around and Drew's gone, and I'm having to take all the snaps. And I'm wondering, as the game go on, you supposed to get more tired, but at the same time, I'm to the point where I feel like I can't move. You know, I'm missing run, I'm missing gaps, I'm slowing down, I'm falling. I was like, what's wrong? I said, man, I don't know. And then he was like, we're gonna go take you to the doctor. He said, something better be wrong with you too before you be acting like this. Well, come to find out I had exercise induced asthma. So that I would have to take treatments before the game. I would have to get, pints of water put in me, make sure I was hydrated and everything else. It was crazy. But when I got to college, I never even needed that stuff anymore.
Well, when you went to college, you ultimately signed with Ole Miss, and not too long into your freshman year, you suffered a leg injury that ultimately ended your playing days. What was going through your mind back then during that time?
Oh man, listen. I think it didn't dawn on me until they told me I couldn't play anymore. You know, after it happened, I was just thinking maybe I broke my leg or something, but I didn't know I tore all the stuff I tore. I even tore my hamstring. I don't know if people even knew that. But first thing is when I got back and I had that nerve damage, because I told them my leg was burning, and it was like, well, we'll see when we get back. The next day they come in, it was like, Tim, we don't even know if you ever play football again. At that moment, I'm not gonna lie to you, I thought everything was over because that's all I ever known. As a kid, you base your life. What does a 17 to 19-year-old kid know about life at that time? As far as him being able just to play football, you think you're gonna make it to the NFL, even though it's only a certain percent of people make it. That's what I had been banking my whole life off of. But I mean, things changed, and when they told me I couldn't play anymore, I had told my mom I was coming home. I was done with college, and no reason for me to be there anymore. Just a lot of emotions running through my head. But once my uncle finally calmed me down, and he was like, "It's more to life than just football." He said, "If you need to be around it that bad, just go coach." He said, "But one thing you're not gonna do is quit college." So I kind of took that to heart, and I worked my butt off because they told me I wasn't probably gonna be able to walk or run again. So I worked my butt off to get to where I can walk, and then they was like, "Hey, we think you can run." So I started running in the pool, and it got to the point where I can run. And there for a minute, we made a stint to come back for me to play because that's when Houston Nutt was still there. So I was gonna get a chance to play, and then all that stuff happened with him, and he got fired. So Hugh Freeze come in, and I even went through spring with them as far as the tour days and stuff like that. And it got to the point where I was like, man, he liked the smaller running backs. And I got to talking to my trainer, and he was like, man, look, we're gonna try you to play this. You can try to play, or risk getting hurt again and never being able to walk. So I was like, man, I'm not gonna play in his offense anyway because he liked the small scheme running backs. So why don't I just go try to help coach and just put that on my resume? And so that's what I ended up doing. I ended up stopped playing football, stayed on scholarship, uh, helped coach, got to go to a lot of the early morning meetings, breaking down film, just being on the inside, stuff I never thought I knew, and I got to learn. So that made it a lot easier for me.
Well, what play was the I'm gonna go back to that in a second. But what play was your injury? Wasn't it a punt return?
Yes, it was a punt return, and it's funny because it was a freak accident. We were running downfield, and I'm blocking my guy, and out the corner of my eye, I see one of my teammates run past me, and I tried to stop, and when I stopped, my leg jammed back out, and then it came back in. And at the time when I fell, at the time I'm thinking, man, I just hyperextended my leg because that's what it felt like. If you ever hyperextended your leg, you know what it feels like. So I was like, man, I got to get up and walk off this field. I can't just lay out here. So when I stood up to walk and I took that first step, it just felt like it wasn't there. It was a slight fall. So it wasn't a slight fall, but it was a fall. And I was like, man, something ain't right. And then when they got out there to me, they was like, what's wrong? I was like, man, I feel like my leg is broken. And I was like, where does it hurt at? I said, and I couldn't even tell him an exact point. And I was like, it's just right here. Like I was tapping it. But really and truly, it was just my leg was on fire from the nerve damage that I had just caused, and I didn't know it. But I had tore everything in my knee, so they put that air cast on it because I thought I broke my leg.
Going back to you mentioning that you were helping out coach and stuff there with Ole Miss after you kind of hung up the cleats, was during that process were you thinking that you might want to go the GA route and go college coaching, or how did high school and coaching at Cordova first cross your mind?
Well, that came into play when when you're a senior. Athletes at the time wasn't able to go out and look for jobs at the same time as everybody else. So I mean, I was late on finding a GA job, and I had already talked to my principal back home. He was like, if you need a job, you want to coach, you can always come back here and help. So that kind of fell in my hands as far as me, as a blessing of me and being able to coach, coming back home. And then, you get a lot of criticism about coming home. Like, hey, well, these kids ain't going to respect you. They're going to call you by your name. They ain't going to listen to you. You young, But it kind of wasn't like that. When I got here, yeah, you had a couple kids, try to call you out of your name because they feel like they know you as, who you were in high school. But obviously, you've grown past that stage. So, but after we got that problem over, it was more of a respect thing, and it became fun, mentoring kids like that.
Well, to wrap this up, I'll give you a little off the wall question. NIL wasn't around back when you were around, but it's, all what college football is all about now. Seems like if NIL would have been around back when you were in the recruiting process and in college at Ole Miss, how much do you think that would have kind of influenced some decisions you made?
Oh man, I think money wise, as a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid coming out, that's going to influence me a lot. At the time we never really had too much, so therefore, if you tell me if I sign here, you're gonna give me this much money, ain't no telling where I would have ended up. I mean, that's just the honest truth because you never at that age, you're not. It ain't too many people see that type of money. Yes, it has changed the whole game a whole lot, but you're not gonna see that type of money. And I also think that kind of takes away from the kid being hungry to go to the NFL because now he's already making that money, you know. So he feel like he can. I mean, you kind of slack off as far as being hungry to go to the NFL because you're making money. Or it could. I mean, it could fuel some people to do more, just to get more.
Do you think we'll ever see a player that says, I don't think I'm going to go to the NFL. I've already made enough money and played in college and, maybe won the Heisman or won a Natty or something. I'm good.
I don't think so, but at the same time, it's possible. Just because of the injuries of football and everything else now. Like if you read in the past that you got like what's his name? Guy I played Zeke Woods, I think, played at Ole Miss. He signed his NFL deal and retired that same day, and all he had to do was pay half his money back. I mean, you see stuff like that all the time, so I don't understand why you wouldn't see NIL deals all through college and then sign a big contract and then just retire. I mean, you're getting all that money without having the head trauma or the body aches and stuff like that.
Well, Tim, I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me on the podcast. It was a pleasure watching you on the field back in the day, and good luck to you, man. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Thank you.